Hello and welcome to the Ivy League Sisters podcast, where you're invited into the world of high-achieving women who earned that coveted Ivy League degree and now are here to get real and honest about the pressures and expectations that come with claiming this achievement. I'm Lauren Baluchian, and I'm the founder of Ivy League Sisters, a mentorship community where intellectually curious and slightly rebellious women band together to support each other through the personal and professional seasons of life. In this podcast, we peel back the layers of perfection to reveal the authentic, often messy, and always inspiring stories of women who have been where you are. So whether you're an Ivy League graduate, a high achiever in any field, or simply someone striving to live a more authentic life, the Ivy League Sisters podcast is a place where you can realize you're not alone. And if you're new here, like and follow this podcast so you don't miss out on the latest episodes. I hope you enjoy the conversations.
Welcome, everyone, to the Ivy League Sisters podcast. I'm Crystal Flores. I'm the head of community engagement for Ivy League Sisters. And with me this morning, I have Michelle Jeong. Michelle is one of our Ivy sisters. Thank you for waving. And she is a double Dartmouth grad, Dartmouth undergrad, and she went to graduate school at Tuck. She got her MBA from the Tuck School of Business. So the purpose of these interviews, remember, is twofold. It's first to get to know one of your fellow sisters a little bit better. And second, to sort of show and highlight how many of the themes that we cover in our personal development curriculum have shown up in that person's life. So today with Michelle, I'm going to be asking her to talk about her story. And in particular, I think I'm going to be asking her about how boundaries and the need for boundaries have shown up, but also how releasing the need for certainty, dealing with uncertainty has shown up in her life. So I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. Michelle, if you would first take a few minutes, take your time and introduce yourself. Tell everybody where you grew up and where you are now and sort of how you got there, what your path has been.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the kind intros, Crystal. My name is Michelle Jeong, and I'm based in not so sunny San Francisco right now. I'm born and raised second generation San Franciscan, and however, I've traveled the world a couple of times for work, studies, etc. So it's been a full circle for me in a lot of ways, both career-wise as well as geographically. I've had lots of career pivots, and I'm more than happy to kind of share my trials, my pros and cons and wins and not so great wins. But I come from, I did go to Tuck Business School, and I also got a master's in international economics at Johns Hopkins. Basically been in love with everything econ. And I guess I do actually apply it in my job, which is more than I most can say. So I'm really, really glad to have had this great base of education that Dartmouth provided, and then kind of build from there. Right now, I'm founder of Fire Capital, and that stands for Financial Independence Through Real Estate. I'm a big believer that you can basically, especially as women, staying financially independent is massive. I cannot suggest that more. And real estate was my path in terms of achieving that. I'm a syndicator operator across 9 different states. I operate about 1,000 units under management, specialize in multifamily affordable housing. So that's a really quick nutshell of a summary for you.
Okay. And you're a mom though, too, right?
Oh yes. I'm a single mom of 2 pretty amazing girls, 17, 19, one who's coming today for spring break. So I'm really excited about that. She lives in Washington, DC. She's a swimmer like her mom, and that's what I do for fun when I'm not working and parenting. And I have the other one who's waiting anxiously for like the last wave of applications and acceptances and decisions. So we're going to.
Oh goodness, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Did she apply to Dartmouth?
She applied to Dartmouth, so we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it's all about what's the right fit for that kiddo. But I do feel like the college admissions process, at least I remember the time that you and I went through that, was stressful and harrowing, and I feel like it's even more so for today's generation. But that
Oh,
is, yeah,
incredibly so, especially in
yeah,
these times of
yeah,
uncertainty, as you had pointed out earlier. It's
yeah.
definitely interesting.
So tell me a little bit about I want to go back to your experience at Dartmouth as an undergrad. So what did you study in undergrad?
Well, actually, if I can correct you a little bit,
Oh, sure.
I went to Berkeley as an
I'm
undergrad.
sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay. I studied political economics. I fell in love with the interconnection between politics and geopolitical strategy. I love the interactive dynamic between politics and economics that we actually see playing out now. Um, with
How
tariffs.
how timely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great foundation to understand, what a great lens to understand current political environment, the current political environment. Wow.
Oh no, it's like playbook, and so it's been a lot of fun. I write about these things in my blog. I have a blog at investingwithfire.com, and I actually wrote about tariff war and the impact. And I just like these things. This is why I say that these foundations provided me the ability to be able to analyze things better. It gives me a great toolkit, so to speak, your education and your experiences. And if we actually kind of parlay that into career pivots, getting that base, that toolkit, the skills, foundational, allowed me to be able to move geographically, move careers, move industries, et cetera, because at the core, it's the same analytical skills. And then you just kind of learn the language, the vocabulary, and all of that. And that's actually been fundamental for me in terms of my career pivots.
Interesting. So where did you go after undergrad? What was your next step?
Oh gosh, that was in the height of the California recession at the time. So um, I'd say that I kind of applied everywhere.
That's okay. We all went through that. We all went through that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The shotgun approach to applications.
Yeah,
Sure.
you're like, I'm just gonna apply to everything.
See what hits. Yeah.
I actually happened to kind of just fell into the startup software world at the time in the early 90s. And I was really, really incredibly lucky in a lot of ways because I fell into a software. It's a fintech. I have experience in technology in this fintech world. And I fell into the most amazing environment where actually the joke was that women actually you had to be a woman in order to be a CXO. And, the founder was this Latina woman. The head of customer service was a single mom. The other one was this Asian, we called her the Dragon Lady, head of engineering. It was quite an incredible environment. All of the talk about flexible work hours, 4 days a week, that was all implemented in the 90s. And I got to experience how it worked and the empowerment. And so I took that experience and I pivoted academically to get to grad school. So it was an amazing experience for me because
What a great example when you're really in your early 20s and kind of those formative years, early years of one's career. That's fantastic. So, okay. So you get out of undergrad, kind of stumble or get lucky,
yeah
happen to find a great employer, have some good experiences, go to graduate school. So that's kind of, and I feel like sometimes going to graduate school, it's a kind of a natural pivot point for a lot of
yeah.
people. It gives you the opportunity to kind of turn, and people that's sort of expected. So what happens after talk?
I actually, like many MBA students and graduates, I actually found myself in London in strategy management consulting. So again, the career pivot, because as you correctly said, going to grad school is just kind of like that natural change of career time. And a lot of people do it. It's expected. And I figured, okay, I'm trying to figure out, everyone talks about this thing. Let me see what it's like.
Right.
So but before that, I have to say that I shaved my head, I put on a backpack, and I traveled for 6 months.
Wait, stop. At what point did you shave your head and travel for 6 months? When was that? Was that before grad
After I
school?
graduated from Tuck, after I graduated from Dartmouth, I decided that, yeah, I decided, I asked for 6 months off because I love travel, I love exploring. And I said, like, to hell with it. Why not? Just change of pace, before I had to become a responsible adult.
Right. Before I'm fully out of my chrysalis and fully formed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Before I had to learn these adulting skills, I wanted to completely like just focus on new experiences. And
Okay, hang on. I want to make sure I understand this. So you graduate from Tuck, you have the consulting job, like you've secured the job, is that correct? And then
yes,
you tell your potential you tell your new employer, hey, by the way, I'd like 6 months off before I start to go
yeah,
cavorting around the globe. Did I get that correctly?
yeah, yes,
That's so fabulous. Winner, chicken dinner. I just love that. That's so brave and bold and wonderful, and how much self-awareness there is as a young person, because we're all still relatively young when we're graduating, from out of grad school or undergrad, to have the self-awareness to say, hey, I really want to give myself this experience. So where did you
yeah.
go? Where'd you go?
Gosh. Well, before I went to grad school, I took 3 to 4 months off and spent some time, no, actually another 6 months, and spent some time in Central America. So I wanted to learn Spanish. So I just did that. And then it was kind of like a nice bookend where right before I had to enter the workforce again. I love travel. I love different cultures, languages, food. Oh my gosh, I love food. So to be able to experience all the different foods from all over the globe, I mean, it's no brainer. And I put myself in these situations where I just would like plop myself there and then figure out, the work visa issues or just the job issues because I loved it so much. Um, it was, and having that educational background, the foundation certainly helps because then I know the process. I have the confidence to know that I, I've been able to do it. And so the rinse repeat is just,
Just rinse, repeat. Yeah.
yeah,
So it seems like early on, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as I'm reflecting back, as I listen to your experience, what I'm hearing you say is pretty early on, you developed a degree of self-confidence in thinking and in believing whatever happens, I'm kind of going to land on my feet. I'm going to figure it out.
I'm going to push back a little bit on you because
Okay.
my mom and dad,
Oh, yeah. How'd your
my
family
parents
handle
are
that?
very, very traditional. And so it's not the degree of self-confidence. It's more like for them, it was the degree of black sheepness. You know,
Okay.
it's like, my parents basically were like, wait, you're not a doctor and you're not an accountant. It's like, oh my gosh, where did we go wrong? I mean, seriously, where did we go
Okay. And
wrong?
wait, do you have siblings?
Oh yes. One's a
Okay. And
doctor.
that was exactly what I was going to ask. Is what path did your siblings follow?
Yeah, I mean, they followed the absolute career cookie cutter Asian, successful Asian dutiful daughter. So my oldest is a doctor, and she's amazing, by the way. And my youngest is super incredible. I'm very close to them, and they are. She's a physical therapist. Been married. They've known the same guy since college, grad school, and they've been with them for decades. They have kids, just like myself, but I'm kind of the the source of worry for my
Right.
parents.
Yeah. And I'm no doubt a happy life. No doubt. I suspect that both of your sisters have happy, engaged lives, but it's a far more linear path.
Yes.
And then here we have Michelle, who's like, I'm going to take 3 months through a few, I'm going to go all over, graduates from grad school, gets the big girl job, and then goes, hang on, time out. I'm going to go backpack around the world,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I just love. Okay. So you finish backpacking and then you go into consulting, right? In
Yes.
London.
Very
And
posh London management consulting. It was very different culture than what I was coming out with the backpack and hiking boots. And I mean, that was fine, but then I realized that it wasn't a good fit. Um, However, it allowed me the skill set. So I did continue consulting, but I decided to switch over and consult in technology. So I switched over again back to tech and with Cisco Systems and then Gartner Group. So learned a lot of, again, excellent skill sets in terms of analyzing markets, competition, brand, go-to-market strategies, product development, things of that nature, that I kind of started meshing a lot of my product development skills from my early days in fin tech to basically helping a lot of very large companies roll out their products. And I kind of laugh at myself because we had to consult some very interesting sectors like pornography, for instance. And so, here I am, super buttoned up, blue suit, etc. And I'm going to these interesting conventions, looking at new technologies.
Sorry. I just have this the image in my mind of you, like in a, fully dressed, suited up, very professional, walking into a porn conference.
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much. That's it.
It's amazing where an MBA can take somebody. Wow. Okay, so
it was definitely one of those interesting moments where we're like, wow.
We've all had those moments. We've all had those moments where you sit up and you go, oh, so this is my life right now. Okay. Yeah.
However, they're like the most early adopters of new technology. And you can't deny
Interesting.
that. They are the most forefront of tech adoption, that sector. All of the streaming services, they didn't
exist. That's true.
That's during, Blockbuster times. And so the mobile payments, all of that, online payments.
That makes sense, just as a business model. Yeah, as they're pushing the envelope to get their product out, sure, that it does make sense that they would be on the edge of those technologies. I had not thought of that, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so basically here I am, like, presenting. You should be targeting this. It definitely was. Those were definitely memorable times, let's put it that way.
Oh, I love that. But that is part of, I think, that, when you speak to the intellectual flexibility of your education, the fact that you can do lots of things in lots of different industries, and apply that same skill set, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about what was going on in your personal life during this time. I know you're currently divorced.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Yes. And so at what point did you meet your husband, fall in love, begin having children? Tell me about that part.
So we actually met in grad school, and he was a Tuck undergrad. We met at Johns Hopkins, and you're these two very starry-eyed, want to change the world kind of people, and that's the values we held. And of course, reality bites, and there are certain things that happen. We actually traveled the world together. We decided to find jobs in London, find jobs in New York, find jobs in California. So we were basically committed to finding a location and then kind of hustling from there. At the time I was married, I was about to have, I was married, but no kids, and kids changed kids changed the game. There isn't anything light to say about it. Your whole life changes, and it's a personal decision. So I have tons of friends that don't have children and chose to be that way, and I have tons of friends that have like 3 or 4, and that's perfectly fine. And the subject matter changes, obviously, but right. I'm very, very blessed to see both sides of the coin, and that no side is greener than the other.
So did you have your children while you were still in consulting?
No, actually. So here's another career pivot.
That's what I want to talk. Yeah. Talk more about your next career pivot. Yeah.
So again, the whole basis of the core foundational skill sets allowed me to pivot into another thing, because I started meeting, I was living in New York at the time, and I started meeting all these fabulous women that were incredibly creative, but didn't have some of the skill sets that, in terms of financials and numbers and business plan and presentation and strategy. And so I started teaming up with them as a favor, to help them launch their own health, wellness, and beauty products. And I found that I really liked that space. Here I was, like this total type A blue suit, like blue or black, gray suit, depending on the day of the week, and consulting in corporate. And here were these incredibly gifted innovators that I felt I could do so much good. And they were so appreciative. So I started doing this as a side hustle. Here's a pro tip. If you're looking to career pivot, then having a side hustle and doing it on the side and starting small, it helps you figure out your likes and dislikes about the industry that interests you, and it gives you a little bit of time to build up that nest egg from a practical perspective.
Yeah.
So I did that. I helped launch Skin Iceland Beauty with Sarah Kugelman, which is still out there. A couple of other beauty products, fashion products, etc., in the New York space and globally. And that was really, really exciting.
What a great experience. Yeah.
Oh, it was totally fun. Plus, you get a lot of free samples.
Plus, you get the swag, which is great, right? Everybody needs good skincare. Sure.
I'm Asian. We like freebies. But in a lot of cases, so it was just the ability to use the same skills in terms of forecasting with numbers, reading pro formas, reading balance sheets, be able to develop those business plans and business models in real time and be able to help them execute was pretty fun. So that was my other career pivot. I can't remember how many I talked about already, 3, 4. Yeah, so I did that for a while. Decided we wanted to have kids. So I didn't want to have Manhattan babies. So I wanted to be closer to my family. And my parents are here in San Francisco, being the dutiful daughter and making sure that you're, raising kids nearby, keeping an eye on your family and your parents, especially since they were quite old. So, it made sense. So here I am, 20 years later, about to be an empty nester. So I'm super excited about that. And maybe you'll see me next time with a shaved head and backpacking.
Right. And you can come to Texas, which is a foreign country, by the way, and you can have barbecue if you like different food. Yeah, I'll take you to one.
Oh, I've been there. It's great. I have a deal in Tyler, Texas right now. So.
Oh, fantastic. I love Tyler. That's a great town.
Yeah.
It's a good
town. Anyway, so that was I did that for a while as a consultant, independent consultant, to help launch different startups, beauty startups, etc. And that was really fulfilling. After being pregnant, I decided that I wanted to launch my own children's fashion company with my sister. So we launched Zuni. Yeah, I've kept a lot of things under wraps.
Okay, yeah, this is the point of the interview. Like, we're going to unwrap that. Like, I love hearing that, though.
Yeah, did that for 7 years.
Fantastic. So for 7 years, you were running your own children's clothing brand. This is after being in the beauty space. That's after having been in the consulting space. That's after having worked at a tech startup. So tell me all these different things, which I think is so wonderful. It's this quilt, this quilt of experience that makes this beautiful kaleidoscope.
It definitely does. But again, at core, it's go-to-market strategy. It's how to develop numbers. It is developing a brand. And we bootstrap this completely. And one pro tip, actually, I would say that, which probably led to a lot of the stresses in my marriage, was 2 kids in 2 years with 2 startups, no bueno. It's a lot.
Right. I don't know. Yeah. If you're listening to this, you can't see the look on my face, but if you're watching on YouTube, yeah, you just that sounds tough. And you can see you can see that.
Yeah. And so here we are, like, both trying to hustle with our own individual startups. He was in mortgage backs, on the debt side and notes, and in real estate. And I was helping him, but also full-time taking care of my kids, the house, and my own startup, just on vapor sleep, basically less than 4 hours a day. So, I mean,
The mental load. So Leslie Feingertz, who's also a member of this community, does a lot of work around acknowledging, naming, and helping to educate both employers and fellow employees about the mental load of working motherhood. And that the fact that there's usually one default parent, and in this culture, it's usually, I think in most cultures, it's usually the female. So that's the person who's mentally going, oh, the kids need socks. I got to sign them up for summer camp. And, oh, that cough doesn't sound right. And I think she's outgrown her shoes. Like, and the fact that moms in this culture have that dialogue, that never stops.
Oh,
when you're raising kids. I don't have kids, but when I talk to my friends who do have children, that dialogue just doesn't stop as a woman.
Oh, it doesn't stop until, well, it stops on a day-to-day basis when you have a little bit older kids. But then you have to start worrying about other things.
Right. Yeah. It just changes. The dialogue, the inner dialogue just changes. It doesn't really go away. And I suspect for mothers, particularly, at least I can speak for Hispanic mothers, my mother's still got a dialogue going about what I'm doing and worrying about me and so on and so forth.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes. But I want to talk a little. So you've had a handful of pivots, and then you still have another pivot that we haven't talked about, which is is in the company that you currently run. But tell me a little bit about, as you're making these pivots, there's got to be a degree of uncertainty. And how much did you feel that? How did it show up? How did you deal with it?
A lot of it was making sure I remained financially independent. So luckily my parents ingrained in us making the need for having your own money. So, and I was kind of a saver, so I had a huge debt, post grad school, but every single bonus went straight there. So I actually was able to pay it all off in like 3 years. I lived like a pauper for 3 years, but I was so obsessed by getting rid of the grad school debt and any student loans that I just basically was okay eating, ramen and living in a very cheap studio.
We don't name it enough in this culture, but frugality is a superpower. It truly is. And we don't, we still don't talk about it enough. And I think sometimes people who practice frugality are labeled as cheap or just all that stuff. And that's true. Some of that, there's a difference between cheap and frugal, and we're not here to talk about that. But what I'm hearing you say is, hey, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing you say, though, is in order for me to deal with the uncertainty of taking a career pivot, I first made sure that I was set up financially so that if something goes wrong, I'm still okay.
Yes.
Is that, yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's a form of financial self-care.
Yes, it's absolute financial self-care. I mean, your background is all about that, right? And I so much agree with you. The one thing that I loved that always still resonates is when you talked about, Timex versus Rolex. And I mean, making sure that you're on the same page with your partner in terms of the financial values is super critical.
Super critical.
Unfortunately, like yourself, I wasn't in my marriage.
For those who are listening and may not understand that reference, I have a presentation and it's loaded on Ivy League Sisters about how much does it cost to be me, the importance of knowing that number. But the practice that I talk about is actually tracking expenses. And in that conversation, I talk about how I came to that practice. And one of the stories I tell is the realization when my ex-husband came home with a Rolex and I was still wearing a Timex. And I realized that was a reflection of our values. And I thought, okay, I'm a Timex and I'm married to a Rolex.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we can't make this work, but it does mean that we need to acknowledge that we have some different values and probably some different goals. So that's the story that Michelle is referring to. So you're in your marriage and you realize I'm the frugal Timex and I'm married to a Rolex. At what point in your marriage did you see that? And were there other things going on that eventually led you to say, you know what, I shouldn't stay married to this person?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, it's having that, it's not just financial values, as you pointed out, it's basically could still work on it, but there was a lot of separation, and we can go into the death by 1,000 cuts kind of, story. But without being said, it was a very difficult marriage that, took a lot of emotional and financial toll. It wasn't healthy. I'll just leave it at that. There was also, unfortunately, some infidelity involved. So, if it's not working for you, and there's your boundary, we talk about boundaries. I mean, that's a big boundary for me. I'm willing to work on the financial side, etc. I'm willing to bend over backwards in terms of helping certain aspects of the family life and the mother and parenting, because I signed up for this. I was old enough to know better. So that's my commitment. It's my responsibility. But it's a marriage is not unconditional level. There's certain conditions that are there.
I think that's fair. And I think it's also fair to acknowledge that there is somebody, I guarantee, there is somebody who will be listening to this podcast who may not be dealing with infidelity in her marriage, but who is living that death by 1,000 cuts.
Oh, absolutely.
There will be somebody, probably more than a few, for whom that will resonate. It certainly resonates for me. I certainly took a lot of bravery for me, and I don't know what that was like for you.
Yeah.
But, as long as we're talking about divorce, I mean, I want to talk, at least in my experience, there was just all the shame with having had a failed marriage.
Oh,
Michelle is nodding her head, right?
That's
that's clearly something. There's the shame. So there's all the external shame of, oh my gosh, my marriage has fallen on its face in a huge way.
Yes.
Then I had a lot of fear around, what am I going to do on my own? Am I going to be okay? And it's so much uncertainty.
I mean, this is like a whole talk in of itself. You're so used to, you have, okay, this is not working for me, realization in terms of your marriage or whatever relationship, long-term relationship you might find yourself in. And but you have this tremendous amount of fear going, well, what else is out there? And I swear to you, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a mom, I'm a single mom with I had to shut down my business. I sold it to a VC for nothing, a mere fraction for what it was actually worth, just to shut that door. It was part of the divorce procedure, but it is what it is. And so I shut down Zuni and the fashion company, sold it all off in pieces. I just wanted to make peace with it and move on. I went back into tech because that was my background, and so I knew it was going to be somewhat stable, and that's what I needed for the time. So I did that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be such plankton. I had such low self-esteem. I thought the dating world, I'm, single mom, failed business, divorced, who's going to be even remotely interested? Let me tell you.
Oh, the things we tell ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, just that negative self-talk, it's incredible. And so I found myself trying to navigate, a new career pivot, dealing with a failed marriage, feeling judged by everyone around me, losing friends that were only associated with as a married couple. I just had to let go. I've been fortunate, however, and this is a big plus for me and a huge blessing to have had a community being in San Francisco. I had a lot of contact with old friends that were truly supportive of me and my decisions. My family were also extremely supportive, no matter what. So that really helped me get through some very dark times. Um, and frankly, we talk about journaling in Ivy League. There were two things that saved me mentally. Otherwise, I would be popping pills. Is journaling. I've been doing it for decades, and I, didn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be every day. It's just kind of your honest best friend. And swimming, I took back swimming again, and that was cheap therapy, and it kept me healthy, kept me like, gave me perspective. And those are the two anchors for me. And
So actually, so I want to name a couple of things that you just said, and people who are contemplating a divorce or who are in the midst of one. I also found that loss of friends was very unexpected. Some people stepped away from me that I never would have guessed.
yeah,
But I also learned, Michelle, and you sort of echo this experience, there were people who stepped forward that I didn't expect to have that kind of degree of support from that particular person. That happened with several people. And I
yeah,
think it's really interesting. I think what you're naming is, it takes a village to get through life. It takes
absolutely.
a village. It may look on the outside like you're going through divorce by yourself, but it truly takes a village. And I think for anybody who's listening to this, if you're going through a divorce or contemplating the end of a relationship, find a tribe, find your people. It's all, I think life is a team sport, and it's all about who's going to play varsity with me,
Yes,
who's going to
absolutely.
show up and suit up. And when I was going through my divorce, I actually had a list. It was written in my wallet. And
Really?
it was a call list. I was like, when I'm having a bad moment, I'm doubting myself, because you hit, at least for me, I hit a point in the divorce process where I kept thinking, oh my God, you're crazy. You shouldn't leave. You're nuts. You're nuts. But I was too far in. I couldn't turn back.
Oh, yes.
You're in the belly of the beast at that point, and there's only one way, and it is forward. But that for me was when all the panic and the self-doubt hit, that, oh shit, you have just thrown a grenade into your life. What are you doing? And all the uncertainty, all the uncertainty monsters like threw themselves a Mardi Gras parade every day at my expense.
Yeah, the dark voices.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes, the negative self-talk. And
the negative self-talk.
I kept
Yeah.
on thinking of Churchill, how he, during World War II, I believe he said the quote, if you're going through hell, just keep on going. Finally, you'll get to the other side.
So there's a country song with the same
Oh,
line. If you're going through hell, keep on going. And I
okay.
actually would play that on repeat, and that was super helpful. So whether it's Churchill or it's a country song, find your inspiration wherever you need
Oh
it. But
no, I mean, yeah, I mean, I could even tell you the number, I can't even count the number of times that I have my kids, and so I have to have a certain, I have to keep it together for them.
right.
But I'd go into the car late at night and I'd just scream. So there would be this crazy lady screaming in the car.
But here's what I hear you saying. I was going through this really dark time. And number one, I made sure I had a tribe.
Yes.
Number two, I kept journaling. I kept swimming. I made
Yes.
space for myself in the car. And
Yes.
what all of those are for me is that I see a woman who says, I know what I need, and I'm going to make sure that I get it, because otherwise I'm going to go loony.
Absolutely. And
So
I will
for
say,
anybody listening to this, I think it's really clear that you develop your own list.
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
you become also a lot, because you have a lot less time, you're older, a little bit wiser, hopefully. You can cut through a lot of the BS now. So when you're going out there dating, and ladies, definitely don't think you're plankton. You're actually a huge catch. And I would definitely say start with the fun, because you need fun. You need fun. You don't have to jump into the next serious relationship. Start with the fun and what brings you joy. And so it's yeah, rediscovering dating was like eye-opening, because I had always thought there would be no way from based on my checklist that anyone would be remotely interested. And then, yeah, I never have ever had a problem. You keep yourself open. Start with the fun.
Right, right. But throughout all of this, I'm going to name it again. What I hear you saying is, I had a practice of financial self-care, knowing that my finances were important and those had to be a priority. I had my village, I had my journaling, I had my swimming, I had my safe space in the car, all those things that's a woman taking care of herself. And that's so important because for many people, that's something that we have to learn, if not relearn. But for a lot of us, we have to learn it because we never learned it.
We never did. We're so ingrained from day one to become people pleasers, to listen to what other people, the social pressure, etc. And it's
hard.
incredible. It's incredible weight we bear as a gender. And so to be able to kind of release that the weight, it's so freeing. And so right now I'm at this, I told you I'm at this convention earlier this week. And like, I don't care what I like. If I want to wear a leather jacket and leather outfit, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to like wear it. I don't care. I'm like, everyone else is wearing their cookie cutter. I'm like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
And that's great. That's actually being your own authentic self and having the starting to listen to your core is not only freeing from a health and mental health perspective, but also, people start seeing that vibration and start coming, you become this magnet, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think when a woman steps into her own authenticity in every way, whether that's with how she works, where she works, what she does, what she wears, how she eats, how she exercises, whatever it is, when we start expressing our own authenticity, well, first of all, it's like a muscle. So the more you do it, I think the easier it gets.
Yes.
But to your point, that energy also attracts the right people.
The absolute right people.
That's really important. That's the really right people. So tell me a little bit. I want to go back to your career story. When did you found your current firm?
So I was in tech, another tech startup.
Mm-hmm. So you went through your divorce and you went back to tech because got to make a paycheck. It's what we know. Great. No problem.
Exactly. I know I can do it, etc. But I was at a tech startup and I was burning candle at both ends. The 60 to 80 hour tech startup founder work weeks. The just it was insane. Plus 2 little girls. Plus I was taking care of my parents who were much older at the time. They're no longer with me right now, but it was a very long caregiving journey. That's probably a total of over 12 years. So for all those caregivers, it's just you're basically sandwiched. And so something had to give, and I had to think of those WTF moments of like what really matters. What really mattered were taking care of my kids and my parents, being there, being present for those that mattered, and that was my family. That was top. The second is, how do I do this, is the flexibility. I needed a job that could not only just to pay my bills, but provide flexibility. And so I looked around. I got invited by another mom friend, whom I'm still very good friends with, and she introduced me to this program called RE Mentor, which was how to do real estate, syndication operations, etc. And I was like, this is interesting. Interesting enough, she brought me into it, but she left after 6 months, and I basically said, I have to make this work. There were no other no other ways. It was this is my option. This is like, it checks all the boxes in terms of flexibility, potential income, freedom,
income potential.
all that. So that is what I committed to. And I guess when I commit to something, it's kind of like all or nothing. So I invested in myself, my education. I spent a year with the right mentors. I actually asked for a female mentor, because they would be most inclined to know the challenges that I faced, and to help me navigate, just the launching of another career. And yeah, so I started small, not the big apartment complexes, etc. It's been an evolution. So I started small, got my feet wet, partnered, learned, just was just a sponge. And that's the big thing for me is over my decades, I love being a sponge. I love learning. It's just so it's something that in my DNA that makes me happy. Oh, okay, I learned something new. Believe it or not, 2 weeks ago I was learning Muay Thai for the first time. You know,
I love that though, but knowing that you're a lifelong learner and that's one of your passions, and that's absolutely something. If there's one characteristic that pretty much every woman in this community
yeah,
has, we're all intellectually curious and bold, and we always want to learn new things and find new perspectives. Yes.
yeah.
So that
So it's pretty cool. I'm like, oh, okay, I learned something new. I learned like I love learning something new. Um, I'd rather be the small fish in a big pond where I'm kind of like being exposed to all like the big fish, the big sharks, so that I'm like just the sponge learning from them or observing them. And that's kind of been my mantra. Um, it's yeah, it's kept me interesting and interested and happy.
that's amazing. So if someone's listening to this and she goes, I want to learn about this real estate mentor, where does she go to find out more information about that?
Uh, you can just email me, Michelle, Michelle at investingwithfire.com, and definitely put you in touch.
Great. I'm going to email you afterwards. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no,
So
it's been great. I started in 2017 and I just committed to doing it full time. Again, I started small. I definitely recommend, start with your comfort zone and then scale up. And that's perfectly okay. You don't have to leap. You know, yeah, the first
right.
step is your first step. And so that's what I did. And here I am 7, 8 years later, and I really enjoy it. I run an accountability group. I mentor and I commit to mentoring people, and a lot of ways. I'm tough. I'm tough and I'm very demanding, but at the same time, everyone knows that I will roll my sleeves up and get dirty and get the work done just like everyone else on the team. So we're all in it together. And that's kind of the approach I've taken.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And what I hear you saying, and I think this will resonate for a lot of women, is I first identified, so I'm divorced, working 60 hours a week at a tech startup. Like, this is not working because I've got aging parents and I've got children to raise. So what I hear you say is I first identified this checklist of what I needed my work to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I've got another pivot coming, but I know my work has to have this kind of income potential. It has to have this kind of flexibility. It has to have this, that, and the other. And then you went out and found something that checked all the boxes.
Absolutely.
I think and I think there's a lot of women who will identify with that process. And I think there's a lot of people listening to this who will say, geez, I'm going through that. And there's a lot of women for whom those are the exact same check boxes. I need a certain degree of income. I need some flexibility because I'm raising children. I have other responsibilities. I need to have the ability to work from home. I need this, that, and the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people for whom that will resonate.
Yeah. And also, I've also grown up with this perspective of no regrets. So I really, really try to, even with a failed divorce, a failed marriage and divorce, a very, very nasty divorce, very, very long time coming. It was the idea of like no regrets. I don't regret. Every decision leads to the next one, and there's no purpose for me to look back and say shoulda, coulda, wouldas when I'm here present, and I can, start small and learn. There's that book Atomic Habits, and you could do and then there's another book called, One Thing. And when I was kind of in the thick of it, I thought, okay, what is the one thing that I can do to kind of move that needle? And, so because we're all so busy, that mental load is real, as super real. So in between laundry and groceries, all of the tedious stuff, I was like, okay, well, what's one thing I can do to kind of move that needle? So I'm not beating myself up, because we're all high achieving women here. We tend to beat ourselves up like no one's business.
Oh no, that's my specialty. There's
Yeah.
nobody, and that's my specialty. Absolutely. There's nobody who can beat me up as badly as I can, I can assure
Right?
you.
Yes, exactly. All of that
There is
negative.
no one,
Yeah.
right? There is no one who can tell me what a poor job I am doing in every facet of my life like me. That's
Yeah.
my expertise. Yes. Yes. That's my,
Yeah.
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 But
I think it's a lot of us. A
that's a
lot
lot
of
of us.
us resonate
A
with that.
lot of us. But I mean, I think the themes that have come through this interview is the importance of starting small. And what I've heard from your story over and over, which I think is really beautiful, is you've started over,
And over and
over and
over and
over.
over.
There's a book, and this won't be in your sphere, but it's written by a guy named Denny Emerson, who is a famous equestrian. And the title of the book is Begin and Begin Again. And in the book, he talks about the importance of every day is a new beginning, every month is every horse is a new beginning, but every experience. And he talks about the importance of not being afraid to start over.
Yeah.
And I think it's so beautiful. And because a lot of us have thought, oh, I'm going to have a linear path and it's going to be cumulative and every experience. And those of us who have the path where it's begin and begin again, it is a cumulative path. It just doesn't look quite the same way. And I think
Constantly zigzagging.
it's a zigzag. And the other thing that I hear you saying, I've heard this through many women's stories, is this idea of no regrets. What I hear you saying is you've learned a lot. You've paid some tuition. There's been emotional tuition that has been paid.
Yeah.
And I always think it's okay to pay tuition as long as you learn the lesson.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
And the big, also actually speaking tuition, the big thing that I would also say that it was a core value that my dad, who went through war, lost everything. And he always said, like, the one thing that they cannot take from you, they can take your homes, they can strip you, your clothes off your back. They could imprison you, but the one thing that can never take away is your mind and your heart. And so always feed that, always educate, invest in yourself. And so I've definitely been doing that. And it's something that I try to encourage my kids. We'll see where it takes, but you know, be able to constantly invest in your mind and your experiences is, that's why, like, material stuff doesn't matter for me. It's like, okay, let's try that new thing.
I think that's beautiful. So that's, if you had a tagline, if under your profile, it would probably be, I'm imagining it in my head that it would be feed your head and your heart. And
yeah, I was thinking more like WTF.
Here we go again. I understand. Yeah. But I think that's so important, that notion of constantly investing in your head and your heart. And, that's a part of what we do within Ivy League Sisters, is hopefully helping people invest in their heart and grappling with some really tough things and having honest conversations about them. So I want to thank you for your time. But before we go, first and foremost, you have a blog post that you talked about in the beginning. And I want to ask, do you mind if I post that within Ivy League Sisters? Because I think it'd be great for people to read.
Yeah, absolutely. I offer a lot of free education. So if you're even remotely interested in real estate, if you go to my website, investingwithfire.com, there's a picture of me with my girls. There is a little, it's from a couple of years ago, but anyway, if you go to insights, there's a whole educational section.
That's great. I'm going to post a list of that within the community, because I think for women, this is a community of women who are interested in investing in their head and their heart, and you will offer a different perspective, given your background and your education and your experiences. So the last thing that we also do before we close out are the lightning round questions. So don't overthink. These are not hard. Won't be hard. First question: what is the biggest thorn on your rose bush right now? Would it be perfectionism, people pleasing, or imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome.
What is one lie you still tell yourself?
It's true when I say WTF. I mean, it goes through my head every single day, multiple times a day. I mean, this is lightning quote response. That's what the first thing that went.
That's okay. That's fine. What is one thing that feels edgy in your life right now? Something a little raw, something a little new, something a little uncertain?
Probably getting myself out there romantically again. So I left a very long-term, very, very loving relationship 3+ years ago, and trying to figure out, okay. And I decided to experience self-love. I just decided I'm going to date myself. And it's been this amazing, amazing long-term blissful affair with myself. And I've actually loved this period. I've grown in so many wonderful ways. I've learned what my boundaries, what my likes and dislikes, etc. So ladies, anyone listening, having a period after a breakup of just dating yourself and doing everything that you enjoy, I feared that because we all have this fear of being alone. But once you love yourself and you love being alone with yourself, it's like, it's going to be hard for me to go out and find a person to replace this.
Oh, for women who've done the work, what men are competing with is your own company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge, huge. And, but I have started, and it's been fun. I mean, it's definitely been interesting. You're like,
well,
okay, what's the worst that can happen? I still love myself. So
it's another form of stepping into uncertainty. And
there you go.
But with all the confidence and the wisdom that these decades have brought you. So I want to thank you again on behalf of Ivy League Sisters for taking the time to share your story, your wisdom, your insights, your pivots, your stories. We all learn from each other. And there are women who are going through a career pivot, or who are in a relationship experiencing death by a million cuts, or who are raising children and who are sandwiched. And there are portions of your story that I think so many people will identify with. So I want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, Crystal. And thank you, Ivy League Sisters. You guys have been an incredible community for me during this transition, and incredibly supportive, smart women that have been through the fire. And I'm so grateful. So definitely let's stay in touch.
Will do.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to be in contact with our community, you can find us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Ivy League Sisters, or visit our website at ivyleaguesisters.com. And if you found this conversation valuable, I invite you to share it with another woman, another friend, another loved one, because it's through our sharing that we inspire one another and deepen our connections. Until next time, remember, you're not alone. We are in this crazy thing called life together.